This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Every government, no matter what the dispensation, makes grand promises of financial inclusion for the country's poor. Today, the NDA government launched its own version, the Jan Dhan Yojana. It's aimed to open basic bank accounts for every household in the country. We're asking whether the scheme will be feasible to implement on the ground, given the realities of limited savings, small loans and financial illiteracy that abound, and how different this scheme is from its predecessors launched by other governments. And as we said, of course, the Narendra Modi government launched that universal bank account scheme, something that was first proposed by the Nachiket More panel in January this year. 60,000 bank camps will be conducted and about 1.5 crore accounts are targeted to be opened in just one day. The onus will be on public sector banks who have been given a target to open 7.5 crore accounts in a year. The aim, as we said, greater financial inclusion for India's poor.
The mega nationwide launch of Prime Minister Modi's pet project, Jan Dhan Yojana, for 7.5 crore households by 26 January. And on day one of the scheme, the opening of 1.5 crore bank accounts was declared, with premium-free insurance for 1.5 crore people.
आजादी के 68 ईयर के बाद 68% लोगों के पास भी ये अर्थव्यवस्था का ये हिस्सा से कोई संबंध नहीं है। जो 1.5 करोड़ परिवार या व्यक्ति जो भी जुड़े हैं, वे अर्थव्यवस्था की मुख्य धारा में अपना पहला कदम रख रहे हैं।
Outside Delhi's Shastri Bhavan, where the PM made the announcement, a kiosk was doing brisk business. The rush was for bank account forms.
सरकार की जो योजना है इसको बैंक ने सफल ही करना है और अभी हम कम से कम भी 120 के करीब अकाउंट कंप्लीट कर चुके हैं.
Work in progress on what the PM was announcing barely a kilometer away and defining the political logic to bankers.
तो गरीबी को से मुक्ति पानी है तो हमें फाइनेंशियल अनटचेबिलिटी से भी मुक्ति पानी होगी.
The scheme comes with incentives. Accident insurance of 1 lakh for each account, 30,000 rupees life insurance, a debit card, overdraft facility after 6 months, provide identity documents within 6 months of opening the account. Those without any officially valid documents can open small accounts with just a self-attested photo. The government feels banking for all will give the economy a kickstart as it will generate employment as outlets increase savings, reduce dependence on loan sharks, more accountable system of providing subsidies. The Congress, which spearheaded education, food and information for all laws, says the scheme was fathered by it.
Well, that's an old UPA scheme. Both the former finance ministers and the former prime minister had worked very hard for financial inclusion.
But how they will identify between those without accounts and those with account queuing up for benefits, the answers from bankers not very clear.
Accounts will be deduplicated by using Aadhaar number or some common number. So ultimately the benefits will flow by one common number.
But will the scheme reach out to the poorest of the poor? 60-year-old Kanti Devi, who makes a living out of selling chana outside her basti in Patna, says she has no identity proof and has no idea about the Jan Dhan Yojana or how it can be beneficial.
कोई प्रमाण पत्र है आपके पास, पहचान पत्र या प्रमाण पत्र? आप कह रही थी जल गया.
हाँ हाँ बेटा जल तो गया, सही बात.
तो अभी आपके पास कोई पहचान पत्र नहीं है?
ना कुछ हो ना हवा.
कुछ नहीं है.
In Hyderabad, 58-year-old auto driver Jan Pasha, who could never open an account because he never had the minimum deposit of 1,000 rupees, now feels he can open an account since the PM has said Jan Dhan is a zero balance account.
उनके अगर फ्री अगर अकाउंट ओपन हो रहा है तो हम कराए लेंगे.
So 7.5 crore households in this country are going to get a bank account. 1 lakh rupee accident insurance cover, 30,000 rupees life insurance cover and an ATM debit card. But the government will have to look at another fact. 25% people at least in this country live below an income of 40 rupees a day. They are waiting for Narendra Modi to deliver the Achhe Din because the Jan wants more dhan in their bank accounts. In Delhi, Rahul Srivastava for NDTV.
Right. Well, the big question around this ambitious project is feasibility and implementation. Joining me to discuss that tonight from the BJP, Nalin Kohli, the spokesperson. The Congress's C.R. Kesavan joins us as well in the studio. Paramjoy Guha Thakurta and Aarti Jairat joining us. Gurcharan Das also joining us from his residence in Delhi. We're hoping to be joined by the former General Manager of Punjab National Bank, U.S. Bhargav, as well in the course of this bulletin. I want to actually take it first to Nalin Kohli of the BJP. Nalin, a very ambitious scheme, no doubt. It's a promise that's been made by this government. How confident are you that this promise will be delivered to all the people you want to reach?
Well, actually, Maya, I'm smiling because you said in your opening remarks that, how would it be implemented? It's the first time probably in the history of the world, in terms of banking history certainly, that 1.5 crore or 15 million accounts approximately have been opened on the same day. They've been opened. And then it's probably again, a record, as the Prime Minister mentioned, 1.5 crore insurance covers have gone out. So I think, you're talking about a launch, and this wouldn't have been possible. Before we get into the partisan part of the debate, let's look at it from a national perspective. This was possible because from day one, the government started working, spoke to the chief ministers, the MPs across states, and 20 chief ministers have participated, union ministers, MPs, MLAs. So I think this is a national program and it should be welcome. It started its implementation. The target date of 15th August 2015, the Prime Minister has brought it back forward to the 26th of January. And today, the way the method had gone about, he's confident it might well be achieved much before 26 January. That's why the additional incentive of a 30,000 rupees life insurance cover. So this is basically, the core part is financial inclusion. There's additionally removal of financial untouchability, bringing the poor and the marginalized in terms of whether it's BPL, APL, anything, those who are not in the financial structure, one step closer and bringing them into the economic mainstream. Okay,
I want to actually, I want to take this to Gurcharan Das. I want to ask you, Nalin Kohli is talking about the fact that all these bank accounts have been opened on one day, so therefore implementation has already begun. But isn't that in a sense also semantics, because implementation isn't about the only act of opening up a bank account, it's what you do with that bank account subsequently as well.
Correct. I think that this is a wonderful thing, first of all. And when the UPA says that, oh, it was our idea, I think that's really sour grapes, because anyone can have a good idea. It's the person who implements it that matters. So if Modi can actually implement it, it would be wonderful. However, I would have been happier if they had announced a series of tests, pilot studies, etc., for the first 3 or 6 months, and they should be working with mobile money, M-Pesa, as in Kenya, which is a very successful model that has been shown. Then the Bangladesh, Kenya idea of the equity bank, where they are using another kind of technology. What I'm saying is there are a lot of good ways to do it. The weak spot, the Achilles heel of our system is the public sector bank. The public sector bank has no incentive and really has behaved so badly in the last 30, 40 years that we all feel very cynical. And so we have to minimize the role of the public sector bank, use microfinance companies, use technology, use the mobile phone companies, allow them banking privileges. There are many partners who could come into this and make this a success.
Okay,
where I am skeptical is that.
Right. I want to actually bring C.R. Kesavan also into this right now. C.R. Kesavan, yes, the Congress has talked about how these are old UPA schemes, but Gurcharan Das also pointing out that this in a sense is sour grapes. Shouldn't you not today congratulate the government on what is going to be certainly something that's aiming to change the lives of people? The implementation is something that's in everybody's interest. Should there be partisan politics in something like this?
Maya, the Congress party and the UPA government has traditionally and innately have always championed and pioneered and supported any initiative which is for the benefit of our people in our country. To answer Gurcharan Jasdi's claim, the first thing I want to say is it's sheer surprise, that the NDA government, which had gone to great lengths to oppose the initiatives of the UPA, have done a U-turn here. And and they have taken, in fact, the schemes they have denounced, they've taken credit for. And let me just give you an example. And first I'll answer Gurcharanji. He said, we didn't implement anything. I just want to point out, there were about 44.97 crore accounts in 2004. And when the UPA completed its term, we had about 77 crore accounts. And that's implementation. That's 33 crore new accounts. And, I want to talk about Aadhaar, and we created 58 crore Aadhaar accounts. And that's work done. And so it's not a question of sour grapes. We did do our work. Coming back to the BJP point here, when and today I saw your reporter saying about 80% of these new accounts were based on the Aadhaar, numbers. And the interesting part is the BJP had gone and said, Aadhaar is the biggest fraud in our country, and the BJP senior leaders said, it's for legalizing, illegal immigrants. And, I remember what the Congress said then, and I'll repeat it again. We said, the BJP may criticize this, but the critics of the Aadhaar will realize one day that it's a major tool for empowerment, and the words have rung true. Same thing with the direct benefit transfer. I remember again, no, let me complete, Maya. The BJP said it's, it's a politically motivated thing. We just followed what Rajiv ji said, that you lose, only 15 paise goes to the people, and we wanted to plug the pilferage and, do good. And we launched the DBT, direct benefit transfer for 26 schemes, including improving women maternal mortality, and we were criticized by the BJP. I'm happy, but I just want to say one thing, Maya. It's not a game changer; it's just a name changer by the BJP. They're just continuing what the Congress has done. We are happy with the name changing because it benefits the people.
CRK Sivan, not a game changer, but a name changer. Paramjoy Guha Thakurta and Aarti Jairat, I want both of you to come in on this. Paramjoy, I want to ask you first. CRK Sivan making an interesting point as well, that like take the Aadhaar scheme for example. The BJP had spoken out very vehemently against it. They were talking about basically rolling it back, etc. Today they're talking about how that is going to help them implement this scheme. So,
Maya, honestly, I think you shouldn't bring in political partisanship into a scheme which is meant for the poor, it's meant for the underprivileged. Okay, 2 or 3 points. Firstly, none of us really know how many people don't have banking facilities. Mr. Modi made a very dramatic statement. 68 years after independence, 68% of the population doesn't have access to banking facilities. Nobody's done a proper survey. Elsewhere, somebody else says it's 40%, somebody else says something else. The fact is, you can be reasonably confident and say at least 40% of the total number of households in this country do not have one member with a bank account. In large parts of the country, remote rural areas, people have to travel, walk huge distances to come to a bank branch.
Right.
You've been talking about barefoot bankers for donkey's years. You've talked about bankers, with, mobile handsets which are enabled again for quite a few years. But it's taken a long time for you to increase the salaries you're going to give them, to improve the incentive structure you give these so-called BCs, banking correspondents, business correspondents, the so-called barefoot banker. It's taken years for the Reserve Bank of India, just the other day, just a few days ago, it's revised it what is called KYC, know your customer norm. You don't need, you can have a single document instead of a proof of identity and a proof of address. You don't need to give a separate proof of address.
But that is again something which is different between rural and urban. I mean,
they're making that absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Then there are, you can have small accounts. You can have a small account just with an officially attested picture and a thumbprint. Let's accept the fact. At least 1 out of 4 persons in this country cannot read and write her or his name. Now, when I disagree with Mr. Gurcharan Das is if anybody is going to do this, it's your public sector banks. They're the guys who've gone to the rural areas, not your ICICI, HDFC and your private sector banks, all the guys who've got new licenses. I don't think it's your self-help groups or your so-called your microfinance institutions that do it. I mean, they charge rates of interest which are far higher than what the scheduled nationalized commercial banks do.
Okay.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Last point I want to make. Look, at the end of the day, it's a great scheme, okay? But it's the implementation of the scheme. Are we going to ensure that bankers, bank officials treat a poor person, a poor woman, an underprivileged person with a certain amount of decency, a certain amount of dignity. You know, you are today allowing a person to open a bank account with zero balance.
Right.
You're saying you're giving a debit card. You're saying you're going to give a minimum accident insurance. These are great schemes. Let's implement them. You know, it's good to have this kind of big bang approach, but I think much more needs to be done to follow it up consistently over many months and many weeks.
Okay,
yeah.
I know you said that one shouldn't bring in partisan politics or politics really in schemes that are meant to uplift the poor. But Aarti, you also as a political journalist over the years have seen all too many times grandstanding statements being made, schemes being announced and then falling by the wayside in a matter of time.
Absolutely. And Maya, you know, this has been our problem over all these decades, that I think every government has come out with good ideas, but it's, you know, the delivery, somehow we fail in the delivery. And that's what I think the present government has to really look out for. You know, I think this is a great scheme, and I think that for the poor, I mean, it's a huge feeling of empowerment when you have a bank account. You know, somehow you feel that you're part of the system now.
Right,
you know?
absolutely.
But I mean, there are 2-3 things that I think the government has to ensure simultaneously. One is, you know, if you're talking about technology and using e-banking and, you know, mobile banking and so on, you have to ensure broadband connectivity right down to the last village.
Also tech literacy in the same process.
Then you need to have tech literacy. Then you need to have electricity. I mean, even if you have electrified villages, you know, they don't have electricity for 12 to 14 hours in the day. So, you know, how are you going to operate your, so your banking facilities?
Systems.
And I think most importantly, you need to build economic activity around those villages so that these bank accounts become live accounts and they're not just dormant accounts that, you know, you open them and
then
that's
they
it.
lie there.
And then they just lie there.
In fact, that, Nalin Kohli, is a serious concern, because you have these zero balance accounts that you've opened, but on the one hand, people don't really have money to sort of put into these accounts. Aarti is pointing out the fact that this is definitely a good scheme. You're looking at upliftment and empowerment, but it's not just about opening the account.
You know, with humility, I'm going to say this, and I'll answer Keshwan last, but everyone has come up with so many inaccuracies in what they are assessing, so I would need to put the record straight. So you'll have to permit me. Let's start from Aarti backwards. Aarti is saying we need to look out for delivery. I pointed out that the delivery has started. With the bankers, we are talking about dignity, which Paranjoy said. How would a 1.5 crore accounts have opened if 78,000 camps done by the bankers had not taken place and people were not enthused to open those bank accounts? I mean, you are undermining the effort put in by the people who you are criticizing at the moment. It's not, that's why the Prime Minister sent out 7 lakh plus emails thanking them on behalf of the country, not the BJP. I'd like to go further. You're talking about mobile banking. May I just bring it on the record? Aarti speaking about electricity, broadband connectivity, etc. You have not gone and checked on the concept of the Bank Mitra. The Bank Mitra is the concept with a minimum salary, which Paranjoy was mentioning about, that we need to think about it. It's already there. 5,000 rupees minimum salary with variable components. Linking it possibly, in addition to fresh employment, with the post offices, ensuring them to go with the mobile phone thing in their hand, deliver money to the household. Because you're looking at it from the traditional idea that a bank has to be a brick and mortar building. Not just a person who takes the service there. It's a basic service. That's what the RuPay is. Linking it to the National Payments Corporation essentially allows you to have a confirmation of your money being deposited to that person on the SMS right there on your phone, so it's not going to run away. And if you are withdrawing, I want to go further because there are certain more things that were pointed out. You were saying about mobile banking, which was the point that Mr. Gurcharan Das raised. That's exactly what it is. It's part of that whole thing. The weak link is the public sector bank. They've done a great job, but the private sector is stepping in. Much less. Till 3 days ago, about 68,000 camps had been done. The private sector banks, primarily HDFC, ICICI and Axis Bank, had done about 3,000-4,000. Now that the figure is more than 78,000, I'm sure that would have gone up further. Let's now get down to the political points. So that's, oh yes, a figure that Paranjoy wanted to know. 58% of India approximately has access to banking. That's the figure. 42% doesn't. The Prime Minister's message was, in 68 years, we haven't taken that figure to even 68%, which is just trying to say 1% per year. That was the political point on it. Let's go to case 1.
I heard him
case 1, of course, is very nicely
say.
saying it's only a renaming of scheme.
Well, I would just like to put it down bluntly. We've had Garibi Hatao for decades. Garibi didn't go. We have the great leader conceptualized, and he has it in his head, the infrastructure map of India. We didn't see that. When they had an opportunity of 10 years to serve the people, they preferred to plunder and rule.
All right.
1 minute, hold on.
Yeah, very quickly, Nalin, very quickly.
Aadhaar, they did
Maya,
not have the capability of even putting out cogent and proper answers before the Supreme Court when it rejected the entire scheme.